thanks everyone for joining us. First things first, this is our second to last webinar of the year. We've got one more up, which will feature Jack Lee, Jacqueline, and Hui doing our 2026 Trends event. So make sure you're all set up for that. You can invite other colleagues to that using this link here. So we want to make sure that we do that. And then we're kind of getting to the end of the year, but there's still plenty of opportunities to connect with all of us Data Central folks. Here are some of the upcoming ones for just November. And of course, you can always reach out to hello@Data Central to schedule a meeting or to learn more about any of these events or meeting up with us at those events. This one feels like we've been doing this for so long, we all know, but in case you forget, I do still every webinar. I notice there's a couple people who start and want to send something just to the hosts and panelists, but please send to everyone so we can all see what you had for lunch and see your answers and your questions, because it does help everyone learn when we kind of work together. So our icebreaker to kick us off for today's webinar is kind of with the theme of our Winter Trends webinar. So what is your must-have dish or drink for the winter season? Jacqueline, do you have a must-have one? I didn't even check
I
beforehand
do.
with you.
I do. And so for me, I feel like my must-have drink is hot chocolate. And throughout the rest of the year, I collect hot chocolates on my travels. There's a bunch of different unique flavors you can get. And so that by the time I hit wintertime, I have this stockpile to
When you're
enjoy.
like reminiscing throughout the year. Oh, that's a
Yes.
fun one. It's like a souvenir option. I do that with spices, but
Yes.
it's not like a winter trend.
That's smart. Because I felt like
Mine,
the t-shirts were filling up my dresser way too quickly. And
yeah,
so
this
I
is a
needed
nice
something
one.
consumable.
Oh, we have chai tea, mulled
Right.
wine, well, this chili. Oh, a cider, which, as we discussed last month, I have mixed feelings on the title. Mine is we are a very classic Midwestern family. So while it is not my must eat in large quantity, our Thanksgiving table must have cranberry fluff, which, if anyone is unfamiliar, features cranberries. It features pineapple tidbits, specifically the tidbit size, and marshmallows, and a ton of sugar. It's like a gelatin marshmallow salad.
I always love that those Jello salads have salad on the end. I feel like it's to make you feel better about indulging.
Yeah, I think fluff is a little more accurate. All right, lots of really tasty winter treats here. Okay, we will go into some things. I believe it does have Cool Whip, Denise. I do not make it. I just consume it. It appears on the table, and I don't know all of the details, and it's better that way. So a couple highlights from the current Report Pro library, some things that are being released. You'll hear all about this one from Jacqueline and fellow trendologist Hui next month. But our 2026 trends is already out and it has a ton of cool stuff, much of which will be covered next month. And then we also, for a change this year, broke it up into a bunch of smaller reports for easier navigation in Report Pro. So I don't know, Jacqueline, if you have anything else to add, but we're super excited that it's out with, lots till 2026, and there's lots of really cool stuff in there.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to check it out. Like Claire mentioned, there's these short mini reports that have been broken out from the full report. So if you're someone who's only interested in a couple of these trends, you can download those mini reports. But the full report is going to be phenomenal for really framing your innovation strategy for the year ahead.
All right, and then a couple others I wanted to note. We have an update to the catering. There's an operator check-in. This one is another really interesting one because catering has changed so much, and there's a lot that's differing. And it takes a look at the role of the new kind of hybrid culture for work, how that's shifting things, how college campuses have changed their catering perspective. So this is a really cool one if you're interested in catering at all. And I couldn't help but shout out this one. We now have a lovely economist on our team, Keenan, and he did this. This is just a one-off report of like something cool that a customer had asked about, and he dove so deep into it. We thought everyone who has Report Pros should benefit. So there's some info on wages and inflation, and some perspective on how that's been changing and how it might change, all in this one-off report. And then this one is a plug because I'm fond of these. These trend bites have little bits from the Data Central One platform at the end, and this one is the menu cast terms to watch. So those are things that our AI has predicted are going to continue growing over the next coming 4 years. And this particular one includes a lot, 4 different ones, including but not limited to dirty chai. So we're seeing kind of that add espresso shot to a bunch of different applications, and that's featured in this report as well. And that is all of our front end housekeeping. So I'll let Jacqueline take it away with the real theme of today's webinar, our winter trends.
Thank you so much, Claire. And I want to ask who's excited for winter. I would love to hear in the chat. I was out the other day with my boys building a snowman. I live in Indiana, and so we had a huge snowfall this past weekend. It's been super fun. Has anyone else gotten snow yet? I'd love to hear. Yeah, it looks like people in the chat are there. There are others who are enjoying the snow because that's the best part of winter. Like, it's not a fun winter if there's no snow.
Spoken like a true Four Seasons person.
So we can go to the next slide and dive right into the data. 57% of consumers are interested in purchasing limited edition retail items or restaurant specials and LTOs in the winter. And this is a small dip from last year when 62% of consumers were interested in LTOs come the winter time. But when we move to this next slide, we're going to see that that slight decrease in consumer interest has not led to a decrease in LTOs that operators are offering. We've actually seen a pretty large increase since 2023, going from 943 LTOs that released in the winter to 1,055 in 2024 by major chains. Now, on this next slide, we're going to have a poll. I want everybody to wake up. Sometimes that food coma, it'll set in. And I'd love for everyone to make your best guess. What month do you think winter chains release the most LTOs? December, January, or February? And Claire, if you have a guess, that would be great. But if you already know, don't share, because I wouldn't be surprised if you already know.
I did have to double check in the data, but I won't. I guessed correctly, so I won't reveal my guess.
Okay. Okay, I was gonna say, even with a guess, I wouldn't be surprised. You would guess correctly because you just live in the data every day.
Too much time looking at seasonal things,
You
but it is
do.
one that surprises people, I feel like. All right, should we
Yeah.
close it? Looks like
Yeah, it looks like we have a good
Okay.
number of people who have guessed, and this one is going to be a little bit surprising, I think. So we can share the results and move to the next slide, and it'll reveal the answer. So it's February, folks, and that was the one that you all guessed the least. This is a big shift from winter 2023, when January was the month that major chains released the most LTOs. And this could be related to a number of factors, maybe Valentine's Day or Lent-related releases, because we see Lent shifting the exact time that it starts from year to year. Moving into the next slide, we'll see that there have been other key shifts too since winter 2024 that are worth noting. You might notice that flavors like gingerbread, eggnog, and peppermint are not making that list on the sweet side this year, but they were near the top in the previous year. And that's likely related to how Christmas-inspired LTOs are releasing even earlier, just like we saw with the fall and pumpkin spice. And so now you're seeing these holiday-related releases launching in November. Over on that sweet side, though, staying over there, we see lots of chocolate-related items, which has some crossover across the winter holidays, especially Valentine's Day. So we see chocolate fudge, we see chocolate cream, chocolate cake, chocolate covered, hot chocolate, all the chocolate is appearing here on the winter side. We also see some newcomers like churro, which made me personally really excited, and pistachio. And pistachio can lend items a green color naturally. So I expect that that might actually continue to trend as we phase out more of those artificial food dyes. Over on the savory side, we see tons of seafood dominating, and this is consistent with 2023. While operators are not necessarily calling out LTOs as Lenten specials, there's still certainly that uptick in seafood that happens around Lent.
I love seeing churro here because I think we, either the last time that we did winter trends or the one before, we saw that it was gonna grow and be like a new winter trend, so it's nice when that happens.
It is, it's lovely. And when you move to this next slide, Claire, you're kind of setting me up because churro, it's up 28% on menus over the past 4 years. It's growing, as you know, not just in the winter time, but year round. It's playing a key role in the item as a flavor trend, which you wrote about for the item as a flavor inspiration report that people can find in Report Pro. And I just personally love that report. There's so much inspiration in it. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure to check it out. On the following slide, we're going to see a pretty unique example of how a chain operator put a twist on churros in winter 2024. We saw that Torchy's Tacos released a churrosco, and it featured a flour tortilla topped with a fried egg, chicken tender, churro, bacon, bourbon marmalade, and Diablo sauce. 52% of consumers found this item unique, making it a top performer in that metric in launches and ratings. And I mean, I would agree with this. It's a pretty unique item, but I would totally try it.
I would definitely if it feels like it has, like, chicken and waffles going on,
Yes.
lots of good combos happening here.
Yes. I was thinking the exact same thing, Claire. That chicken and waffles vibe with like a Mexican twist. Then we're going to see on this slide how pistachios, they're loved or liked by 71% of consumers. So this is a really approachable flavor to leverage for everything from foods and beverages. While matcha can also lend items that natural green color, pistachio is a little bit more approachable. Moving to this next slide, we see how Bar Taco used pistachios for their plant-forward pistachio cauliflower taco last winter, featuring roasted cauliflower with chickpea hummus and pistachio chimichurri. 61% of consumers found this item unique. On this next slide, we're going to see how cocoa is appearing in 16 LTOs, new menu items, and returning items at menu chains in winter 2024. But this probably isn't surprising because cocoa is a wintertime staple. And as I mentioned earlier, like I collect different types of hot chocolate from my travels so that I can enjoy it in the winter. And I'm sure there are many others out there who it's such a just a comforting item. But it's appearing not just in beverages, but also food. So here we see how Eaton Park showcased cocoa in a hot cocoa cheesecake with a marshmallow whipped topping. And I felt like this was a very approachable yet unique way to mix and match these different flavors that you would find in hot chocolate for a dessert item. 63% of consumers would order it without knowing the brand. Now, this next one is a really fun one. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler alert. Lemon pepper is a flavor that we actually highlight in our 2026 trends report as a new classic to have on the radar for 2026 and beyond. It's up 79% on menus over the past 4 years. And Data Essentials AI powered trend prediction platform MenuCast estimates that lemon pepper will grow another 26% on menus over the next 4 years, revealing that this is a flavor trend that has legs. As we saw earlier, it's indexing higher on winter menus. This is likely due to how well it pairs with seafood for Lent or chicken, which chicken is often tied to wintertime sports like the Super Bowl, for instance, when all of these chicken wing, lemon pepper flavors go wild and just are appearing everywhere. Moving to the next slide, we see a more unique application for lemon pepper seasoning. Bertucci's Brick Oven Pizzeria brought back their artisan hand-stretched shrimp scampi pizza featuring roasted shrimp with garlic, fresh herbs, diced tomatoes, mozzarella, and lemon pepper cream sauce. 58% of consumers found this item unique. When we move over to this next slide, we see that the term heart is indexing higher in the winter. And this is for the second year in a row. It's holding steady. 18 LTOs, new menu items, and returning items at major chains featured the term heart in winter 2024. And I have a picture of a heart-shaped pizza here with some fun heart-shaped pepperoni. Pizzas in the heart shape have been making appearances on menus for many years now. But there's a variety of other items that are popping up with the heart shape and taking inspiration from that on the savory side and the sweet side. So moving to this next slide, we see how Bojangles leverage that heart shape for their heart-shaped Bowberry biscuits, featuring blueberries and vanilla icing drizzle. 70% of consumers believed this item to be a good value. Now we're going to be switching gears a little bit here, and we're going to be diving into some key categories that should be on your radar as we head into wintertime. And so moving to this next slide, we're going to see that one of the notable flavors to have on your radar is strawberry. It appeared in 58 LTOs, new menu items, and returning items at major chains in winter 2024. And I don't know if that's surprising to anyone. I kind of think of strawberry as one of those crossover flavors where it's like I'm seeing it a lot in the spring, I see it a lot in the summer, but then you also see it in the winter time, probably associated with Valentine's Day and all of the different chocolate dipped strawberry options that you'll see make appearances at retail and at restaurants.
Yeah, and I think to your point,
Moving,
it's a nice way to do like the freeze-dried strawberry. It gives you that natural color, like you
yeah,
mentioned earlier. You can use it in a natural coloring setting.
yeah, that's a really great point, Claire. Here we see just like this one stood out to me as a really unique way, again, to take inspiration from that item as a flavor trend. You see chocolate covered strawberry cream frappuccino from Starbucks, and it's drawing upon that chocolate covered strawberry concept that we see popping up a lot more around Valentine's Day. It included a blend of ice, milk, strawberry puree, rich Java chips, and layers of strawberry puree topped with whipped cream. And it earned a superstar rating in our launches and ratings platform and a composite score of 98. Another notable food or flavor to have on the radar is cookie, which appeared in 44 LTOs, new menu items, and returning items at major chains in 2024. And this is one that to me is personally very exciting. I love cookies, I love cookie butter. If anything has a cookie flavor, I will be gravitating towards it. And that's what I'm going to pick up, whether I'm at the grocery store or a restaurant. So here we're going to see a few different ways that cookies start in some creative applications. Over on the left, we have Dutch Bros Coffee Dutch Love Frost. Their blend of frost sugar cookie shake with a pink soft top. And it's a really eye-catching beverage. Like this is something that I would see someone else ordering and be like, yeah, I'm getting that. 53% of consumers would buy this item knowing the brand. Then over on the right, we have First Watch's Blackberry Lemon Cream French Toast, which featured thick slices of challah bread dipped in custard, griddled, and topped with gingerbread cookie crumble. 61% of consumers would visit First Watch just to get this item. So now we're going to dive a little deeper on this in this next section into winter holidays and what consumers' plans are for food and beverages. And this photo in particular is pretty relatable. This is my son. He has already, I realized, just gotten tall enough. He's sneaking cookies off the counter. And so now I've had to put everything inside of Ziploc bags inside of other containers that are like locked down to try and prevent him from just having cookies for lunch. So on this next slide, we're going to see that Data Central asked consumers what winter holidays, if any, they celebrate and observe in the winter. And here you'll see their answers. Interestingly, we see that some holidays are celebrated or observed more by specific generations. So, for instance, Gen Z is less likely than millennials and Gen X to celebrate the Super Bowl. And that was a little bit surprising to me. But Gen Z is more likely to observe Lunar New Year and dry January compared to boomers, which that part of it was less surprising. I feel like Gen Z has been more of the drivers for the more global inspired holidays and foods and beverages. So it makes sense that they are one of the target demographics for Lunar New Year in particular. As we'll see in upcoming slides, younger generations are leaning more also into prepared food at grocery stores for some key holiday celebrations. So diving deeper into consumers' plans for foods and beverages for the holidays, we see that 64% consumers who celebrate Christmas usually prepare food and or beverages at home, which like isn't surprising as this is a holiday that's known for gathering at home with friends and family. Notably, Gen Z and millennials, they're statistically more likely than other generations to buy prepared food from a grocery store. Now, I'm not sure if many of you have heard, but we're going to see on this next slide how Dunkin' launched its holiday beverage lineup already on November 5. And it includes a cookie butter cloud latte, again, hearkening to that cloud beverage that social media has inspired. And it combines rich espresso with notes of brown sugar and baked cookie flavor. I don't know if anyone's had the chance to try this yet. It's November 13. So I don't know if anyone's gotten out there and already is lining up for these holiday beverages. This is one that I would, I mean, I said that I love cookie. I would be
I
out there.
already got the cold brew version of this one.
Oh, nice. And what did you think, Claire?
I liked it a lot. I always feel we do takeout, and the cold foam does not take out as much, but it was still delicious.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. And then Starbucks, they also released their holiday beverage lineup. It debuted on November 6th. And so this is one that I thought maybe Claire might have already tried because she's a big chai fan. This is their iced gingerbread chai, and it features a gingerbread flavored cold foam topped with that sprinkling of pumpkin spice. And so it's bridging that gap almost between fall and winter, which is a really good idea when you're launching products so early in November.
So I have not had it yet, but I'll be at the airport tomorrow, which is a great time for Starbucks.
Yes, yes. It's the Starbucks likes to set up like right by the gate. So it's convenient. Looking to New Year's Eve, 55% of consumers who celebrate say they usually prepare food and beverages at home. But again, it's worth noting that Gen Z is statistically more likely than millennials and boomers to buy prepared food from a grocery store for this holiday. In celebration of the Super Bowl, we're going to see on this next slide that 17% of consumers overall say that they usually buy prepared food from a grocery store. And for the Super Bowl, this one wasn't as surprising to me. In celebration, we also see on the next slide that there's a variety of brands that are offering specials and promotions. And this is from Aldi. Aldi is just one example of a brand that launched a promotion. They had a really fun named Get a Quarterback campaign for the Super Bowl that allowed customers to get items like Mama Cozy's 16-inch pepperoni deli pizza, Season's Choice potato puffs, Kirkwood Buffalo hot wings, and a whole lot more for 25% off. So making that value play. Now, on this next slide, we're going to spend a little bit more time here. Out of all of the winter holidays, Valentine's Day is the one that consumers are most likely to go out to a restaurant or bar to celebrate. 58% of consumers who celebrate Valentine's Day say they go to a restaurant or bar. Well, over on the right, you'll see that 37% of consumers who celebrate Valentine's Day alternatives, like Galentine's or Palentine's, will go to a restaurant or bar for food. So it's important to keep in mind how you could reach consumers who might be celebrating romance as well as celebrating friendship. And I'm personally one of those people, I go out for both. There's always a Galentine's Day that I'm going to, as well as a Valentine's Day outing that I'm going to go out with my husband for. So really cater to both. Millennials and Gen X are statistically more likely than Gen Z to go to a restaurant or bar for food and beverages in honor of Valentine's Day alternatives like Galentine's Day. So moving to the next slide, we're still on that Valentine's Day theme. 64% of consumers who celebrate Valentine's Day or alternatives predict they'll purchase the same amount of Valentine's Day candy. And candy, it's a quintessential part of this holiday. My husband's always getting me candy, and it's kind of like Halloween. It's a go-to. There's an additional 12% of consumers who say they will purchase more. Then over on the right, we see that 57% of consumers who celebrate Valentine's Day or alternatives predict they will purchase more treats. And when we're saying treats, we're thinking things like, I don't know, heart-shaped cupcakes, heart-shaped cookies, baked goods, things of that nature. And 15% of consumers say they'll purchase more treats. So moving to this next slide, Lunar New Year is steadily gaining more momentum stateside. 30% of consumers who celebrate it say they usually go to a restaurant or bar for foods and beverages. These next few slides that We're going to see some examples of how different brands got in on Lunar New Year this year. And it was the year of the snake. So there were some snake related products. Starbucks launched a lineup of merchandise that included a cold cup, a stainless steel tumbler, and a ceramic mug. And you see that really fun snake emblem snaking around on all three products. Then on
This is
this
like the
next,
cutest
oh, go
snake
ahead.
I've ever seen. This is like super cute snake.
It is. It is. It's a super cute snake. Like when I heard like snake mug, I was like, oh, are we like going the route of Harry Potter and Slytherin? And then like I when I saw it, I was like, no, this is very happy, a very joyful snake. So the picture is not fabulous, but I thought these were super interesting butters to highlight. Here we have Rooted Fair's limited time Year of the Snake trio pack. It included 3 different spreads, including crunchy black sesame butter, a choice of pineapple cake cashew butter, or Chinese almond cookie butter. That latter one, super interesting. And a special Lunar New Year release, seaweed sesame butter, which was created in collaboration with the Los Angeles based restaurant Woon. And I would try all of these. These are all super interesting options. Nearly a quarter of consumers who celebrate Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday say they go to a restaurant or bar for food and beverages. And it's worth noting that 18% of consumers say they buy prepared food from a grocery store to celebrate this holiday too. And that actually makes this the leading winter holiday for consumers looking to purchase prepared foods. One of the items, for me at least, that's always top of mind around this time of year is king cake. And king cake is, again, one of those items, and I keep harping on this, but it's just so true. That could be an item as a flavor, and it could tie into everything from non alcoholic beverages to alcoholic beverages. I've seen operators put twists on it in that way, as well as desserts like milkshakes, breakfast items, and so much more. So, really look for opportunities to think outside of the box when it comes to the format and flavor of king cake. When we go get to this next slide, we're going to see that with Lent starting on February 18, 2026, 78% of consumers who observe Lent, they're saying that they're going to eat more seafood during this time that leads up to Easter. At the same time, 61% of consumers who observe Lent say they're most likely to stop eating animal meat during this time period. And 31% will give up drinking alcohol. So when you're considering offering different specials, even if you're not calling them out specifically as Lent related, those are important factors to keep in mind. And now I'm going to pass things off to Claire, who's going to explore different food and beverage items that are can tie into the winter Olympics happening over in Italy.
Great. I will move on into those Italian trends. So for this, we thought, thinking that the Olympics would be happening in Italy this winter, and there's a lot of good food, flavor, and ingredients, especially from the northern parts of Italy, which is where the Olympics will be held. That we could take a look of what's trending on Italian menus, and then we'll actually take a look at some of our global information to find some examples from actual Italy. So we will move on into that. This is perhaps the most boring line slide anyone has ever featured in a webinar, but I did think it's important to put in. We know I love my data, and I think sometimes there's lots of different cuisines where things are really gaining or things are really declining. Italian food is really stable. And I think sometimes we think, oh, stable means boring. Stable does not mean boring. Stable means that we have a good base, right? People love Italian food. It is familiar, which means we can get really playful and creative with what we do with it. So it doesn't mean that it's boring. It means that things are pretty even. And that's the other surprising thing, Sarah, right? Is that most of US restaurants, they're American, they're burger, there's some Mexican, but Italian makes up about 2.3% of all US restaurants, and that has been really stable for a long time. We don't see a ton of gaining or declining. This is just true Italian. If you're saying that it seems really low, this is like true Italian exclusive cuisine type. This isn't like I'm a place that also features Italian. It isn't I also have pizza. This is like my primary thing is just basic Italian. So, looking at consumer preferences, I wanted to look and see some rising stars, some things that are gaining in their awareness, and to inspire some different innovations. So, first things first is I sorted by the Know It 2 Year Change, and I looked specifically at ingredients associated with Italian cuisine, and it picks out a couple things. And I swear I'm not just pushing vodka sauce on
I was
everyone.
gonna say, Claire, this vodka sauce that keeps coming up.
I do love vodka sauce. It was one of the very first things I learned to cook, like, as a grown-up. It was, like, my signature dish when I had very little money, but I wanted to impress my friends. I would make pasta with vodka sauce all the time, so, like, there's a personal story, but also the data supports it. We did talk about it 2 or so years ago as something specifically growing for, chicken sandwiches, and we're seeing it continue to grow on menus here, right? We see this nice menu cast line where it shows that it started to gain that momentum in 2022 to 2023, which is when we started talking about it. And then it's really predicted to keep going, being on up to 7% of menus by 2029, which is actually quite a lot for a very classic food flavor or ingredient. And it's getting some ups and downs on social media. So it had kind of a big boost over the past 1 month in engagement of likes, but it had a huge moment way back in October or so of 2024, and this was one of the recipes that showed up there. Looks like it's getting a little funky, but this is a gochujang vodka sauce. So it's a reminder that you can really use something as classic as a creamy, tomato vodka sauce situation and use it as a platform to build a bunch of different things on. Another one gaining, this one a little less known, so you can see it's in that color coding to indicate that it's on the adoption stage of the menu adoption cycle, is orzo, which feels like it's orzo. Doesn't everyone know that? No, they do not. In fact, just 57% of people know orzo. And so it's something that really has some potential as gaining awareness. And the social trends, particularly for mentions, really show that. Like you can see that huge 12-month growth for that, and it's being utilized in a bunch of different ways. People are not nearly as staying away from carbs as they once were, and people realize that orzo is great for meal prep. This example of one of those boosts is actually a chef at a sorority house, so it's great for your different college dining experiences. It holds well, so there's definitely been some gains for orzo. Another way that we can look at kind of freshening up a very classic cuisine is to see what's gaining for Gen Z. Gen Z is now driving the trends as much as it breaks my millennial heart to see that happening after years of being the one everyone wanted to woo. Gen Z is who we're looking to now. And we can look at some of these really classic things, things that are somewhat established. In this case, I looked particularly at things from the region where the Olympics will be being held. So there's different ragus from that area, different risottos and gnocchis, and of course it's near Milan, so anything alla Milanese is going to be something that would be trending. So you can start to see lots of these have really nice upward trajectories, especially gnocchi really has that. That's one that feels like, doesn't everyone love and know of gnocchi only just really hit the awareness and affinity for Gen Z. So that's one that some different generations are already pretty familiar with, and it's an easy one to make pretty approachable. Another way to look at this, yeah, gnocchi with vodka sauce. There we go. We're already innovating here. The Simply Smarter webinar. And a way that we look at this is often your most loved terms. This is a pretty classic list. If there's anything shocking to you here, I'm surprised. Honestly, these are very classic, right? These are the most loved terms. That's all well and good, but we all kind of knew all of these. What we can do instead is filter out those more established foods, flavors, and ingredients and look just at those in inception or adoption to get to some new and different things that still have pretty high affinity. Again, we see our friend orzo and risotto are showing up here, but there's a lot of other great options here, including different pasta shapes and different full dishes that we can do. And the other way to think about that is to see specifically what is uniquely loved by a generation. So this is a classic slide that Data Central does. In this case, I looked at Italian cuisine dishes for Gen Z. I kicked out anything with really tiny love it ratings for the total US so we can get into a little bit more established foods, flavors, and ingredients. And what you're going to start noticing is we're seeing a lot of the same things over and over. Milanese shows up, gnocchi shows up. There's lots of kind of repeat favorites, which is So the index scale is going to be, in this case, for example, we'll look at the Caprese Panini. It's liked 1.3 times more than compared to the total US.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see Pastina on there too, Claire, because that was one of our 2025 trends that we highlighted as an approachable one for the year ahead. And it's still continuing to pop
So
up.
that would be a great one for like cozy winter moments.
Yes.
And I did take a look, thinking about Caprese because I feel like that's one that was so popular 10 or 15 years ago that lots of people who've been working in food and for a long time are like, oh my gosh, can we please stop making that the vegetarian option for everyone? But it's kind of back and it's also being used as a topping, as you can see here for sweet greens, chicken, Caprese salad. But this one really, really made it very clear how well something that maybe Gen Z is just starting to get familiar with can be. You can target Gen Z with that while not alienating really any of the total population, right? The total US numbers for almost all of these items are quite strong, pretty high composite scores, solid purchase intent. Like they're pretty good items, all things considered. But then you look at those Gen Z specific scores, and all of a sudden they're like huge, huge winners. So if you're targeting Gen Z, you don't have to always go to those really trend forward, brand new things. Sometimes you can just think of something that's new to them, so you get to still please your base customer while also appealing to Gen Z. What I did here, and we've done this a lot on webinars together, so you all are probably used to this. I looked at what was trending and growing on Italian menus. So this is Italian restaurants only. I did not bring in pizza restaurants. I really wanted to focus on those true Italian cuisine type restaurants. And then I tried to make a couple buckets that we could work with. The first one that I saw when I was looking at them and grouping things was your classic appetizer. So these are both classic for other places like jalapeno poppers and classic for Italian restaurants like a fried artichoke or a frito misto. We're also seeing growth of tartare, which is happening across the menu. And it's especially a little weird to see in Italian because that's not an Italian word. We would normally call it something crudo, or we would call it a different term, but we're seeing the French term popping up in Italian menus. And then one that I know lots of people at Data Essential are a little excited for, if you can get excited for an old day old bread salad, is that panzanella is growing. And this one's kind of interesting because it's been something everyone's known about for a long while, but it's never really taken hold. It's not as known by consumers, but it's showing some growth. And it's one of those great things that you can use to make sure you don't have any waste at home or at a restaurant. And we're all always wanting to make sure that our margins stay great or that we don't waste money at home. So I think we'll see more from Panzanella in the coming year or so. Hints of heat growing all over every single menu. So also growing at Italian. And it's not just Italian flavors, it's all sorts of things. So we are seeing growth. We saw it for jalapeno popper on the prior slide, and we're seeing it here for hot chicken wing. And that is because Italian restaurants do want to make sure that if people are kind of in the mood for Italian, they're not losing to pizza restaurants. We have what they have too. We can offer you those classics and more. And so they do have that.
Yeah, those sweet and spicy flavor profiles or the spicy, there's so much growth going on in that space right now. So it's very interesting to see the Italian restaurants are also tapping into that, or even mashups with tahine.
And then our friend Tahine also shows up on beverage driven. So these numbers are growth on overall menus, but when you dig into the menu examples, what you see is it's being driven by mostly adult beverages. So Tahine is primarily margarita, yeah, Italian margaritas, and then brined is going to be the continuing dirty martini trend. Though I've read a little bit and seen some evidence in the data that the dirty martini is shifting and we're going back to more of a classic martini, but we will see if that remains to happen. We've got guava and orange blossom, and then this is one, the Hugo Spritz. While it's a little bit more of a summery beverage, is actually from the north of Italy, and it does feature celebratory prosecco. It's something you can drink all day. So I think the Hugo Spritz, as pictured here, so prosecco, very kind of wintry elderflower, a little bit of lime. I think this one and mint will be one that we might see. Like this might be the moment. We're trying to figure out who comes after the Aperol Spritz. Is it the Limoncello Spritz? Is it the Hugo Spritz? With the Olympics, I think we might see quite a lot of the Hugo Spritz coming up. And then some other Italian terms are shockingly growing at Italian restaurants, and some specific ones that are growing are the ones shown here on the screen. So we have carnaroli, which is a specific rice used in risotto. So that's one that can really show that you're doing an authentic preparation without necessarily saying authentic risotto from blah 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 region. That type of rice indicates that. Then we've got some different creamy cheeses and a pasta shape as shown here with bucatini. Uh, and another thing that we can do, and another way that I personally look at it when I'm thinking of the menu adoption cycle, this one is an eye chart, but I wanted you all to have all of these lovely numbers because I wanted to make sure that there was something here for everyone, no matter what you do for your business. I think there's something here for everyone. What you can do is look at the top growing Italian terms at non-Italian restaurants. Here I did once again eliminate pizza because it does kind of do funny things to the data. So this is non-Italian and non-pizza restaurants. What's growing for Italian? And we see a lot of what we've already seen, right? Their vodka sauce shows up again, chicken milanese shows up again. And then there's some different things. We saw earlier that ciabatta was a gaining in awareness, but focaccia is really growing as far as the menu data is concerned. And then we start seeing there's a lot of different wine regions and wine types showing up. So we have Prosecco Rosé, Montepulciano showing up here, Vermentino, which is a wine grape. And then we also have this one kind of surprises me because pesto was kind of down for a long time, but pesto is showing signs of coming back. So both pesto cream and pesto aioli are growing on menus, the specific view of menus as well. And major chains are already successfully implementing these Italian influenced dishes. I don't think I necessarily have to tell you that. Again, Italian is pretty established, but some of these are a little further out or kind of a bit more surprising, but we see like the chicken milanese shown at California Pizza Kitchen. Cooper's Hawk used, I go Calabrian shrimp in this particular dish. And then we have Quick Check showing you that you can really just throw that vodka sauce on a sandwich and it really adds to the uniqueness. I think some of that might be the pairing with the football player, but nonetheless, it's really a simple way to kind of upgrade a dish. And now we're going to do something which I don't think we've done too much on these webinars because we usually save this information for our global webinars. But I just did one of our global webinars and I had a little too much fun playing with that data. So you all get to see some of that. So we actually have this launches information that I've shared for the US for a wide variety of global countries. And we're adding to those over time. But these are the ones we currently have. So we'll take a little bit of a look of that. So we've seen what US restaurants are doing with Italian cuisine, but what are a couple global restaurants doing as far as chains with Italian cuisine? And then what's happening with the chain limited time offers in Italy? So a little bit of a global perspective here. So looking at our Italian limited time offer launches, so these are from major chains in Italy. What are they launching? And we do see that desserts are very key for those major chains in Italy and sandwiches. As far as when things are being launched, a key time frame is January. And given when the Olympics are this year, which is early February, I suspect we will see January and maybe some movement into February. And then we do have March, which based on what we're seeing, that's a little bit from some Easter and then the start of kind of the seasonal ingredients showing up.
Yeah, it's interesting how dessert really is having a moment over in Italy. And I feel like I wonder if that will trickle over to the US a little bit, especially with the Olympics.
Guess we'll see. A couple examples of what chains are doing within Italy. We have Autogrill and their taglioni. This one I think is kind of fun because we are seeing squid ink starting to show up on US menus. It's always been there, but it's gaining some traction. And then that particular cut of noodle actually just showed up enough in our US menu data to be added to the pasta menu adoption cycle on shapes this time. So it's kind of cool to see how the things can start in one country and then you start to see that reflected in the US market and kind of the reverse happens too, right? Cacio e pepe is of course a common flavor in Italy. I can't imagine they necessarily put it on burgers traditionally. That seems a little out there, but Burger King, of course, burgers are their domain and so they can kind of do that collaboration. This is one that it would be a little out there for the US market at this stage, but I could see it working from someone, maybe not a Burger King, but if done right, I think Burger King could pull it off in the US. So that's a sort of an interesting way of how the item as flavor kind of melds between the two markets. And then lastly, we have Starbucks, but this ready, kind of a very classic globally as far as taking something like bacon, like speck in this case, with a creamy cheese, brie in this case, and then the contrast of a sweet jam. This one looks like it uses blueberry. I did take a look at what's happening with Italian items in other parts of Europe, just to play with the data a little bit more and kind of show what we have in there. And this one is fun because the first one from Belgium, we have pesto, which is showing up as growing, but this particular one is a pistachio pesto, which I think does make a lot of sense. People are much more familiar with pistachio. In some ways, pistachio and pine nuts both have their own growing challenges, but there's definitely a different flavor profile there and even more greenness available from pistachio. So that's showing up in this sandwich from LPQ in Belgium. The Netherlands do have a tiramisu ice shaken espresso, which sounds great. Switzerland has
Yeah,
kind of a
and with the tiramisu, like that, it's very interesting to spotlight that one. I'm actually writing about it and how it's expanding again that item as a flavor concept for a current Trend Watch report that will release in Report Pro soon. So those interested in tiramisu stateside too, it's also doing things here. And there's a lot going on with social media right now around it.
And that's such a fun one because it also shows like that what's growing within the cuisine type because tiramisu has been growing within Italian cuisine, which you're like, how can more Italian restaurants possibly add this? And then yeah, it does. So you do get to see like the interplay between the data. Ooh, that's see. Now we're gonna have to go to your local bakery to try the latte. And then lastly, I wanted to look at how Latin America was doing Italian dishes. And this one is pretty interesting because the Milanese profile is so popular in Argentina. The Milanesa is a very classic sandwich and just main entree dish in Argentina. So Subway has the sub Milanesa and it's the advertising around is of course you like, did you know what this is? Of course you do, kind of playing on the awareness. But I also like how you can sort of see the influence. There's that Argentinian, Italian specific type of cuisine, and that's actually what's being highlighted in Mexico, which I think is really interesting because this queso provolone ahumado, it's basically a provoleta, which is a dish from Argentina. So it's really cool when you look across the countries to see how all of them kind of play together and where the trends are moving from. So I think that's an interesting way to take a look. And then we do have from Guatemala a pretty classic kind of Alfredo chicken dish from Pizza Hut. And that's me being done geeking out with our global data. So we'll bring it all together here and summarize what with some takeaways from everything we've talked about so far.
So yeah, something again to keep top of mind, Valentine's Day is a key winter holiday for restaurant offers and promotions. It's the top one that consumers will go to a restaurant or bar to celebrate, but also remembering Galentine's. You don't want to forget about Galentine's and those opportunities to celebrate romance as well as friendship. Then we also have on the retail side, there's an opportunity to really up your game when it comes to prepared foods, especially for holidays like Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday and the Super Bowl, as consumers are increasingly going out to grocery stores for these prepared foods for these two holidays in the winter time.
And then we can look to Italian terms gaining in awareness, like, for example, vodka sauce, orzo, and ciabatta, to inform some Olympic LTOs or just overall Italian cuisine innovation. And then a kind of a general data hack, but particular to this one, is that terms growing within their restaurant type are often on their way to growing overall. So we can look at growing Italian terms at Italian restaurants for overall trends. So in that case, it's things like chicken Milanese, vodka sauce, pesto cream and aioli, and affogato. And then lastly, we've seen it definitely here today, which is that whether you're considering innovation or cuisine specific innovation, the recent limited time offers are always such a great place to start because chains really are doing things earlier and earlier, and their kind of their trend pipeline is so fast these days that it's things that are pretty recent and we can really get some inspiration as to how to make them approachable for the general US.
And then make sure that you are signing up for our 2026 trends event that we will be sending out a link to, and you will have to re-sign up even if you're already signed up for our Simply Smarter webinars, because we're heading into a new year, new trends, new sign up link. So make sure that you do that. But also we have our preview report, and so if you're not a subscriber already to Report Pro, then you can get this free download and browse and get a feel for what we're calling our 2026 trends for this year. So make sure that you check that out.
I love that you always sneak in the cats.
I do. So I have a cat baby. And so I always, if I'm the one who's leading the webinar in any way, shape, or form, a cat is going to make an appearance. And so once again, if you have any questions about signing up for future webinars or how to access any of the reports or data that we discussed today, or if you have questions about how you can become a subscriber, make sure that you reach out to us at hello@datacentral.com. And we really appreciate having you guys join us today to hear about winter trends, Italian trends. We love hearing from you guys and getting to join with you all in the chat.